Yeah. So first of all, congratulations on Crypt of Ice. It's
Thanks, dude.
no worries. It's a really impactful album. It's really strong. It's grisly. It's everything death metal should be. Really,
Thanks, dude.
no problem. It's been about a month now since it was released. How would you say the response has been to it so far, other than me kissing
Uh,
your ass just now?
it's man, it's been pretty wild. We never expected anything like this. I mean, it's far exceeded our expectations for sure. It's everyone's been super nice. You know, you have a hater or so every now and then, but for the most part, everyone has been super supportive and nice, and it's just been great, man. Like I don't know, I just would never have expected this to be received so well by so many people.
Cool. I mean, I think there's definitely I hesitate to say first, more of a hunger for um, proper death metal, like a bit more old school kind of thing. Which is not to say that Frozen Soul is like a carbon copy of Morbid Angel or Obituary or anyone like that. But it's definitely rooted in that old school death metal scene. Um, and of course, the album's released through Century Media, which is a big label to release your debut from or through. How did this partnership come about?
It was kind of weird. I think like what ended up happening was Mike Gitter, the main A&R guy for Century Media. He was seeing our name a whole bunch on his social media. So he messaged us to just kind of see like what we were up to and what our plans were and what we were gonna do. And we honestly had no idea what we were gonna do. We just wanted to tour and keep going off the steam we had after we released the demo through Maggot Stomp. And he had we had people rooting for us. Our current manager, James, was pushing at the time. He wasn't our manager yet. He knew Mike Gitter, so he was putting in a good word for us. Eric from Gate Creeper is another good friend of mine, and he knows Mike Gitter, so he was putting in a good word for us. And as like our tour in January of 2020 ended, we really started picking up some steam, and that I guess got them interested enough to where they were willing to shoot us an offer, and then we worked it out, and then boom, we were on the label. It's wild.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I'd started seeing your name a lot over social media and metal websites and all those kind of things. So it was almost a surprise then that this is your debut album coming out because it seems like your name had been bandied around so much. There was almost at a point where you talk to people like, "What? You don't know Frozen Soul?"
That's wild.
Yeah,
I mean, because I don't know, to us, like, because of the pandemic and stuff, we still kind of don't feel it, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Because we would be on tour, we would be like doing, I mean, the whole purpose to the band is to play shows and
yeah,
to write music. And we've done the right music part, but like we haven't been able to play as many shows to really feel that new like, you know, just like wave of energy from people who haven't heard of us or have been listening to us. In this case, have probably been listening to us for a long time, but we haven't got to meet yet.
mm,
And so without like that energy of those live shows, it's really hard to like feel like accomplished and
yeah,
stuff, and to feel like we're moving forward, because to us and to me, like, it's never been about like internet talk or any of that stuff. Like, it's all about like what happens when we show up to the show, you
mm,
know and what does the crowd look like? How do they react, and how do they feel, and how can we sense that feeling when we look into their eyes when we talk to them,
yeah.
so it's been really wild, man. There's been all sorts of mixed emotions and stuff, but we're being positive, and we're just staying busy, until that stuff starts happening again.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be positive about. I mean, not necessarily in the world in general, but for Frozen Soul. Um, because, like I say, the album is so good and people are talking about you so much. And one of the ways that's been able to keep the name alive is you've done 2 videos so far for Encased In Ice and Wraith of Death, both of which are really very striking. They're very they catch your attention. Had you had any trouble making these videos because of like restrictions and the pandemic and this kind of thing?
They were tough. So we've released like technically 4 videos so far. One of them is a live stream event that we did with Creeping Death and Devourment. That's been doing really well, and we used some stuff from the Encased In Ice video in that, like the killer from our Encased In Ice video. He's the host of the live stream. It's sort of like I don't know if you remember like Tales from the Crypt or anything like that. So it's in the vein of like Tales from the Crypt, where it's like horror comedy. And it uses the killer, like I said, the character we've created. He is the Wraith of Death. So his name is Mr. Wraith of Death in the show we made. And then we did the video for Crypt of Ice. So we did in Crypt of Ice and Wraith of Death were the same director. Okay. So he shot those for us at the same time. Well, days apart from each other, but his name's Brendan McGowan, and he drove down here from New York because he couldn't fly because of the pandemic. So he and his friend Evan, who was helping with like the camera work and lights and stuff, they drove down here all the way from New York, which is like a 20-something hour drive. And they sit there and we transformed our jam space because we couldn't rent out anything or go anywhere to do it. And we did it as safe as possible. And, it was challenging, trying to do that kind of stuff in the middle of a pandemic. But we knew we had to do it because people can't see us play shows. So it's like, we might as well, just pump out other kinds of content to give people something to latch on to. And then we did our live stream, of course, and the guy Tanner McCardle, who helped with the Encased In Ice video, he's the one that shot all the wraith and the kill scene and edited everything. He's also the one that shot those same scenes for the live stream and did all the editing for that whole thing. And he's working on another video right now for Arctic Stranglehold. So,
cool.
We're just gonna honestly keep pumping videos out, because we have to just stay busy, and it's fun. It's super fun to do that stuff, honestly. So just gonna keep doing it. But
plus, when you've got those ideas, and a character like Mr. Wraith of Death, where you can do so much with it, as opposed to just put it. I say just because there's still some work that's to go into it, but just putting out like a live video with the studio audio over it, So being able to do this is a great creative outlet as well, I would imagine.
Yeah, I've never been one to really like those videos where it's like a live video.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like videos like, Cenotaph from Bolt Thrower. That's like one of my favorite music videos. And I like how lo-fi it is and how it's like a live show, but then there's other stuff that it shows too in the video. So that's literally the vibe we went for the Encased In Ice video. But the rest of the videos, like, I don't know, I never really imagined that we would be able to do stuff like this. So it's honestly super fun to just expand on it and just run with it, and whatever happens, because to me, it's all about having fun and doing what we love. So, it's been a truly weird and awesome experience.
Sweet. Well, one of the other things that's very striking about the album is the artwork itself. The artwork very much fits in with the name of the band and the title of the album, and a lot of the lyrics as well. And you look at it and you feel cold looking at it, which is quite impressive in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in bloody Yorkshire. I'm freezing my ass off most of the time. But, so it doesn't take much. But yeah, it's a really cool artwork, man. How much input did the band have with this?
Oh, a lot. We actually something cool. I think this is printed? This is for a magazine, right? You run
this is for a webzine, so the video will go.
Webzine.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So actually you could link this just because it's super cool and it has exactly to do with like what your question. And we did an interview with a website from New York called Heaviest of Art.
Okay.
And they do a bunch of features for artworks, like behind the artwork. So you could link that just because we had put in, and honestly, if you want this stuff, I could send this stuff to you too to put in there. But we had Velio Josto, who did the artwork, and myself like do this interview, and we talked all about it. But we showed a bunch of the sketches and stuff of how we got from like point A to point B, and it's really really cool. And we, the whole experience with Velio was super awesome. To like answer your question, it was great, man. He's a super cool dude, and he actually came up with the main idea for the artwork based off of our song lyrics
Yeah.
and like the direction we were wanting to go, and like the loose concept that the album is based around. And he ran with it, and there's something called a blue hole that exists. They exist all over the place in oceans and you know, lakes and stuff, where it's just like this like sort of crazy circular abyss that just like is super deep and way deeper than the bottom of whatever body of water that it's located in. And so we kind of came up with this concept together to like to have like the Wraith of Death, which you could see as like the killer, the physical killer, or the entity that that is maybe possessing this person to do these things. He takes these people, these lost souls, these people who have done really bad things and really unspeakable things. He takes them and he basically harvests their soul and feeds them to this blue hole at the bottom of this body of water. So it's like a frozen lake, frozen body of water, and there's this blue hole, the abyss, and you can look at it as that blue abyss being the Wraith of Death, the killer being the Wraith of Death, it being this entity that's controlling him. It's all of those things. And so Velio basically, with me, like in the rest of the band, helped design like all of these bodies piling up under this water and creeping down into that abyss. And I mean, like it hit the nail on the head with like everything that we wanted. He typically has this like, I don't know, it's a style that I truly love. And there's a band from, I think they're from the UK. They're called Vulture.
Okay. Yeah.
They're a thrash band that like really like their image is super old school, and I've
Mm.
always really liked that band, and I've really liked their artwork, and so that's how I found Velio Josto, and I started like, you know, looking at what he could do, and I really like that perspective artwork, that serial killer perspective that you find on like 80s and 90s horror VHS covers and stuff, and he's really good at that, really good at that. And at first we were gonna try to go for that style, and just we just let him run with it.
Mm.
And like, and so basically he came up with the perspective of like somebody standing at the top of a lake and looking down at it. And you know, it did everything that we wanted. It did our own thing to where it didn't really look like any other death metal artist's artwork. It didn't look like the Dan Seagrave classic scenic landscape. It didn't look like, you know, a super digital artist that does those crazy colors. It just looked old school, real and different, you know. And I think we're all super happy with it. But it was quite the experience working with him, because he's a master at his work, man. He's a master.
Yeah. I mean, there's some story to go behind it, you know, and
Yeah.
so sort of things you maybe wouldn't see straight away on first glance. So it's really interesting to get the view on that. And like you say, I'll put the link in as well to
Yeah,
the.
and then the link thing, it's more or less like one of those things where if like you're truly interested in it
Yeah.
and everything, like we spent a lot of time like really painting that picture of the hard work that went into it and the meaning behind it. And all those sketches, like even me, I forgot about them, you know, I forgot about them. So much has happened. And then going back and revisiting like how it started and how it looked from the beginning sketch, it's wild how it turned into what it turned into. So it's really cool.
Sweet. Well, we touched on the pandemic and how it's preventing you from being able to play live. I mean, like you say, you did a live stream show, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
Did it affect the recording of the album in any way?
You know, it did a little bit. We were all on edge when we were recording. We had a very tight schedule to record because we started recording, I think, like the 5th or the 7th of March in 2020. So, you know, we were on a tight schedule anyway because we had Slade who did all of the who did Encased in Ice, the demo. He did everything for that. We had him on board to engineer and help do the tracking. And then Daniel, our producer, we had him there. He's done a lot more and he's a little bit more experienced. So we had him there editing, also helping with the tracking, but more so like taking care of the edits and stuff while Slade engineered. And so we ended up taking them and then renting our friend's studio. He runs a studio out of his jam space, and it has multiple rooms. It's a really cool setup. And so we only had like a week to do it. We didn't have like a month like a lot of bands take to record like the record. So we had a lot of hands on deck to make it happen. And then, you know, the world went to shit, you know, right when we got in the studio. So we're hearing about all this crazy stuff. I work in the bar industry, so you know, I'm sitting there freaking out. Everybody's freaking out at my job. You know, it's really, 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 really like stressful. And then we're in the midst of like recording our debut record. And so everyone's on edge. But you know what? Like we didn't get to finish vocals in the studio. I had to do that at Daniel's house. But we were able to knock out all of the instruments in that week. And we even knocked out a cover that's not out yet. So yeah, so we really like, you know, we really went like above and well, we did the record, we did the 10 songs, and then we recorded Tormented by Time. That was in it. Decibel premiered that as like their flexi promo, and then we did the cover that I can't quite talk about yet, but like we were able to knock out essentially 12 songs in a week. And then I went and recorded vocals, and then I recorded vocals during shutdown. So then I remember the night that I finished recording vocals, I was freaking out, man, because we were getting all sorts of like notifications on our phones and stuff from the city and everything about like, you know, there's going to be a curfew if you're caught out after this time, you know, there you could get tickets, and there were all sorts of rumors going around. Like we didn't know what to believe. It was wild. So like I finished up vocals and like sped home, you know, because I was like, you know, it just felt like some kind of doomsday or something, you know. So there was a lot of lingering like stress and anxiety and stuff because of the pandemic. But dude, I mean, we knocked it out, you know, like it's really like, I can't believe we did, you know, but at the end of the day, like we were really dedicated and stuff to making it happen in that amount of time. And we did it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think in a strange way that kind of adds to the old school vibe of the album as well. You know, you look back in the old days, so to speak. A lot of bands did only have a week to record an album. I mean, you think that first Black Sabbath album that was done in 2 days.
Yeah.
So in a weird way, it's kind of added to that that vibe.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but that's totally true.
I mean, I might just be reading too much into it, but that's how I see it.
No, I totally agree, man. Like, you know, but that's always how I'm used to recording music. For any of the other bands I've been in, man, it's always been, you know, wham bam, we're done, you know. It's never been let's take a month and really get this right. It's like, no, let's not practice at all, you know, beforehand, show up and then pray that like we don't, you know, have to have things edited. Luckily for like this album though, we we wrote five. I would say five of the 10 songs on the record in the 2 weeks before we recorded them.
Oh, right.
So yeah, because we wrote an entire record, but we were not happy with it when it came down to it. And then we had gotten Chris, our second guitar player, into the band, who was a lot more like able to help with writing, and he was just much more of like a team player when it came to that stuff. And our previous guitar player, Ray, was an awesome dude and stuff, but he was busy and going through his own things in life, and he couldn't really assist with like the writing aspect of the band. And he lived a lot further away, so it just made things a lot more difficult. And me and Mike had done a whole lot of the writing before that point. So we were just like, we needed a full band there. So once Chris came in, we were able, and then Matt became our full-time drummer. We were able to fully come together, me, Sam, Mike, Chris, Matt, all of us, and just hammer it out. And I think, and it shows, because the songs we wrote were Wraith of Death, Twist the Knife, Gravedigger, Faceless Enemy. I think we finished up Beat to Dust, or we finished up Arctic Stranglehold. Those songs were the songs that that we wrote right there at the last minute before we recorded. And to me personally, those are the best songs we've ever written. So yeah, that's more the direction we're going with, like, Frozen Soul, like, beyond this point. But that the pandemic definitely played like a huge role in all that stuff. So
yeah, no, but it's good though that you're able to just come through it and just, like I say, not just knock out the record, but knock out the park ultimately.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Chad, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today, man. I really do appreciate it.
Man. Yeah, dude.
Stay safe, because I want you over in the UK soon.
Dude,
I want a Frozen Soul bass tour. That would be fucking
dude. Oh, that would be awesome, man. I actually just started listening to them, and they are really, really awesome. It's weird because I hadn't heard of them before, being involved with Century Media, and at first I thought they were, I didn't know where they were from, and so it makes sense that I didn't know as much about them. But man, they are a super talented bunch of guys.
Yeah, and they're cool.
Bassist. Yeah. They seem really, really, really cool and really nice, and like they work really hard. So I would be stoked to play and even tour with those guys. It'd be really, really awesome. And we actually are working right now to try to land some stuff overseas. So we had one offer that we had to turn down. For a few different reasons, and that was unfortunate, but we're gonna for sure get over there as soon as this happens. I know we're planning a US tour right now for the end of September. Who knows if that'll happen, with the way no one in this country seems to be taking the pandemic seriously. So we'll see, but hopefully, man, sooner or later we'll be able to get over there. And I really appreciate you rescheduling with me, and bringing me on to talk, man. It means a lot. And stay in touch. Let's do it again.
Yeah, I mean, no problem, man. Like I say, I love the album, and there's a lot to be excited about. So I'd have done it at 4 a.m. if you wanted.